Man, they will literally just turn the Enterprise into anything nowadays, won't they? Well, at least this one's not fucking bald. What is it with these idiots and beards? The only person who looks good with a beard is Jennifer Miller. Well, let's go see what fresh hell I've gotten myself into this time. ThatSciFiGuy? Meh. I've been worse.
Finishing reviewing Biggles' Adventures in Time in her compound one night, Diamanda Hagan was shot dead by a gang of strident atheists. She found herself in the present, facing a reflection that was not her own and driven by an unknown force to review exploitation films from the 1930s. Her only guide on this journey is Alistair the Homeless Bastard, a drunken actor who only turns up in the Freaks review. And so Hagan finds herself leaping from reviewer to reviewer, watching ancient exploitation movies and hoping that her next leap will be the leap home.
This is getting old, guys. Even with my encyclopedic knowledge of shit 30s movies, I'm beginning to feel I've been worn a bit thin. So I'm cheating a bit this time. This movie was certainly made in the 30s, and depending on your definition counts as an exploitation film, but it isn't shit. Unlike pretty much every other film I've reviewed, this is actually critically acclaimed. I almost feel I should be wearing a cravat. This is The Island of Lost Souls. The first feature based on the H.G. Wells sci-fi classic The Island of Dr. Moreau, and much better than the versions starring Burt Lancaster and Marlon Brando. The Island of Lost Souls is a 1932 American science fiction horror film starring Charles Laughton, Richard Arlen, Leah Hymans, and Bela Lugosi. The film was directed by Earl C. Kenton and produced by Paramount Pictures from a script co-written by science fiction legend Philip Wiley.
Are you just reading from the Wikipedia article?
Of course! Do you want me to insult the intelligence of the audience by changing a few words and pretending I did some actual research? Now fuck off, you bizarre Wikipedia-themed sidekick! Wow, even though I just read about this, I'm truly amazed this film actually has a cast. Charles Laughton, Bela Lugosi, and the Panther Woman? A who's who of talented 1930s actors who were royally fucked over. Poor Panther Woman. Oh, the blood. Oh, the blood. No one got out alive. The music they chose for this is the sort of drums racist movie producers of the 30s thought Polynesian music sounded like, played over some generic 30s theme music. So it's perfect for what they were going for. And using waves as wipes between credits? Why? What is it with 30s movies where shit happens on an island and gimmicky, simmy, hard-to-do credit sequences? It's weird. The good ship Sea Star finds a man adrift in a derelict vessel. Sensing the man is most likely the protagonist, they save him, but decide against savaging the derelict.
Want to salvage that boat? No.
The drunken captain fears the evil cyborgs that come with derelict ships. Sailors can be a superstitious lot. The man awakens in the cabin of Dr. Montgomery. He works for Dr. Moreau, a man so arrogant he insists everyone working for him has a name that can be shortened to Mo. He also looks a bit like Bela Lugosi, but it isn't him. This is because Lugosi was named high up in the credits because he was famous. But he's pretty much playing an extended cameo later on, and they want to convince the audience that he had a bigger part than it actually was. Well, that's the most logical explanation I can think of. Dr. Montgomery sends a wireless message to the guy's fiancée about his rescue and the day the ship will be docking at the city she's staying in. The casualty list from her fiancé's previous ship is put up in the port, and she uses her ability to zoom in on words and highlight important information. With him assumed dead, she's about to move on to her secondary target when she pretty much immediately finds out that he's still alive. So those 2 minutes where she didn't even react to the news of her fiancé's probable death were pointless. Ooh. Just the protagonist's luck. He ends up on the only ship with its own zoo. Men in gorilla costumes were so popular in movies in the 30s, they were often put in zoos and circuses. Couldn't they afford an actual gorilla to go with their actual lion? That's just weird. The protagonist... I can't just keep calling him the protagonist. Skippy meets the captain, an angry drunk who looks about ready to retire to Sicily, Alaska, and co-star in an early 90s TV show. The captain's there for two reasons. One, for exposition.
Well, it's Dr. Moreau's island. Dr. Moreau's island, and it stinks all over the whole South Sea.
Minion! Do the dance of exposition! Minion! Do the dance of exposition!
But...
Oh. Right. The first person I find who looks like a cast member from this movie is going to fucking die. And two, to get Skippy to the island of Dr. Moreau. Unfortunately, according to maritime law, he's supposed to be being left at the port where his fiancée is waiting. But the captain's willing to be a dick for the sake of getting the story happening, so is allowed to randomly assault an extra.
Oh, I'm drunk, am I? Only a drunken man would do a thing like that.
Oh wow, a fist fight, right at the start. How daring. And judging how the footage randomly speeds up and slows down, I'm guessing it was an early attempt at bullet time. It failed because they hadn't worked out how to move the camera at this point. Holy shit, that's a very hairy Vulcan. That's like cyborg hairy. They dock with Dr. Moreau's ship and unload the cargo of a fuckload of animals. So, Noah's Ark reference.
Hey, is that Moreau over there? Yeah.
If Dr. Moreau doesn't wear an ice bucket on his head, I'm going to want my money back. Well, the ThatSciFiGuy's money back, which he could have spent on Dr. Lou in the Frolics.
How are you getting off here? No, I'm getting off at a pier. You're getting off here.
What the fuck did that dummy do to the captain? I know that he needs to get Skippy to Dr. Moreau's island because of the plot, but he should keep the poor dummy out of it. So we're 12 minutes in and the lead's already had 2 probable concussions. If he gets another, I'm bringing out the Adam Adamant Lives clips. Dr. Moreau is played by Charles Laughton, who I've never noticed before looks like a Little Britain character Matt Lucas would play.
I can't have this man. I can't have him aboard. Oh, throw him overboard. That's what I did.
What an asshole.
I don't know why they're freaking out. There's clearly a studio wall behind the ship. They can't be that far from civilization. Moreau orders Montgomery to take Skippy to the port where his fiancée is waiting in the morning. Which is nice, but if it's that easy a trip, why did they need to meet the cargo ship to ship? Wouldn't it have been easier to pick up everything at the port? Forget about that, there's no answer. But I'm glad that some of the cast of freaks got to work afterwards. I'm not actually being cruel. The 1 second running shot I'm currently playing over and over is actually Schlitz's cameo from much later on. So after they get to the island, who wants a geological tour? Well, don't answer all at once.
This was once the crater of a volcano. Extraordinarily fertile, this volcanic dust. Limestone formation. Curious, isn't it?
No, not really. It's limestone. There's 2 types of people who give a shit about limestone. Boring people and someone else.
Don't be alarmed, Mr. Parker.
Why would he be alarmed? I mean, you're just talking about rocks and whipping random people. Next you're going to whip your dick out and paint it orange. Not that we could tell, what with the lack of color.
You're quite expert with that whip, aren't you, Doctor?
It's a hobby of mine. I learned how to handle one as a boy in Australia.
Or you're just going to talk about how you're actually an Australian, with that accent.
There's my house.
Sydney, I think.
You'll be wanting a cold shower, I take it, before dinner.
East St. Kilda, I'd recognize it anywhere. I'm guessing Moreau will be in the guest showers, complete with peepholes, just in case anyone wants to attack Skippy while he's all naked and wet. Oh, nice! Dr. Moreau lives in the 30s equivalent of a zoo, of the future! Over dinner, they hear the sounds of friendly neighborhood screams of pain, and afterwards, Moreau decides to introduce Skippy to the only woman on the island, Spoiler alert, she, like most of the people on the island, is an animal-human hybrid. You do not have my permission to dramatic chord me! Whoever did that.
Will she be attracted? Is she capable of being attracted? Has she a woman's emotional impulses?
Just to get this out of the way. Furry joke. Furry joke, furry joke. Cruel and disparaging comment about yiffing. Needlessly insulting a small group of people and of course, etc. Moreau has been turning animals into human-animal hybrids because he seeks to better and civilize them. This is why he dressed her up as a very cheap-looking tiki-themed stripper.
This is Mr. Parker, Lota. How do you do? Don't be afraid.
How do you do?
Rower.
She's a pure Polynesian.
Ah, yes, with the pale skin that's indicative of Polynesians everywhere. Maybe people were stupid or just ignorant in the 30s, but it takes more than an outfit to convince me that a white woman is ethnically Polynesian. I'm guessing that they'd be similarly convinced that Samuel L. Jackson's actually Scottish after seeing him in the 51st state.
Cigarette?
Yes, I know.
Okay, seeing this awkward attempt at small talk has convinced me that Moreau will not be seen wearing an ice bucket on his head. But I'll forgive him if he does a piano duet with a tiny hairless monkey clone once he's finished staring. If he ever finishes staring.
What island are you from? Tahiti? Samoa?
Manhattan.
You come from the sea?
Well, rather. 3 days on an upturned lifeboat.
You go away?
Tomorrow morning.
I wish you would not go away.
Unfortunately, their awkward but sweet-ish scene gets interrupted by the unmistakable sounds of the House of Pain.
What's that?
The house of pain.
Get out of my non-soundproof torture room that doesn't even have doors!
They're vivisecting a human being. They're cutting a living man to pieces. You and I may be next. Come on, let's get out of here.
Always agree.
So Skippy decides to escape, bringing Animala with him, without the aid of a whip or white fedora to protect them. Of course, they get surrounded by hybrids. Quick, let's get away from the island owned by the evil man who hurts innocent islanders by hurting this innocent islander, because that'll aid my escape. Oh, hey, the guy with the ridiculous beards, surrounded by other guys in ridiculous beards, is Bela Lugosi. You know Bela Lugosi? I spent so much time watching your twin that I forgot you were even in this. Judging by the makeup job they gave him, I think they foresaw his period as a reclusive drug addict. This was one of the rejected makeup tests. I can see the director now. It's good, but it needs to be more Hagar the Horrible.
What is the law?
Not to spill blood. That is the law. Are we not men? His is the hand that makes.
Lugosi is playing the sayer of the law, Moreau's high priest in the religion dedicated to himself. As you can no doubt tell, Moreau has few or no issues with ego. He explains exactly what he's doing on the island to Skippy. Well, he tries to. The person who wrote this doesn't seem to understand evolution.
All animal life is tending toward the human form.
Wrong!
With plastic surgery, blood transfusions, plant extracts, with ray-bars. With these, I have wiped out hundreds of thousands of years of evolution.
I know we know a fuckload more about evolution than was known when Wells wrote the novel, or even when they made the film, but I'm fairly sure they would have known this was all bullshit even back then. I wondered why he didn't use an anesthetic. Then I remembered it's harder to have a horror movie if your mad doctor isn't a bastard.
You're convinced that this thing on the table isn't human? Its cries are human. You know what it is, what I began with? No. An animal.
I don't get this. He thinks evolution is bringing animals slowly to manhood, so he's speeding it up. Apart from the fact that's not what evolution is doing, why is he doing it? He wants to create humans, but there's already a fuckload of them about. Why not turn people into future super people like David McCallum with a huge head in The Outer Limits? And if he's trying to create the perfect human, why? Amber Benson's been around for years. The next morning, Skippy is brought to the ship to leave and meet his fiancée. Unfortunately, the ship has been sunk, and Moreau is being cartoonishly obvious about who sank it.
Oh, this is most distressing. I don't know what to say about it. I can't account for it.
It's bad enough he has the subtlety of a monster truck rally in a glass shop, but he pretty much flat out said he was going to do it at the end of the previous scene, about 20 seconds earlier. Back with the fiancé, the ship Skippy was on has docked, and the captain is still the worst captain since the last one who brought people to an island where they had a bad fucking time, which was every fifth film made in the 30s. The fiancé gets an American consulate to yell at him like an angry teacher, and eventually has another captain assigned to take her to Moreau's island. Back at the island, Skippy is coming pretty damn close to the 30s equivalent of having an affair. She's looking to sink his book, if you know what I mean.
Loda! Why did you do that?
I don't have answers, Paul.
Manimal.
Loda.
Wait, he only just worked out she was an animal? She's the only woman on the island. You find out almost everyone's a human-animal hybrid, and you didn't just assume that the weirdly white Polynesian thing was a very badly thought-out lie? You're as stupid as the much funnier 90s remake of this. And overreact much? That's the sort of pathetic and over-the-top reaction a guy gives when he finds out his girlfriend has a tail. Not a tail. I'm quickly losing what little sympathy I have for this guy. He doesn't give a shit about the animal-human hybrids, but as soon as he develops feelings for one, he gets really pissed off.
I could have overlooked those others. I could have shown you that much consideration. But to have created a thing as tragic as that girl.
Once it affects him, the torture and everything else is suddenly unethical. Yep, I have completely lost any sympathy I had for him.
Lota is my most nearly perfect creation. I wanted to prove how completely she was a woman. Whether she was capable of loving, mating, and having children. Well, she was very much attracted to him. See, of course, the possibilities that presented themselves.
I'll tell you this, Moreau. You'll make arrangements for me to leave this island somehow and as quickly as possible. Or this great scientific work you've been doing will stop.
Oh, come on. You could have said, I'll do great scientific work on your face with my fists.
How did you find out?
And now we discover that her claws aren't just an imperfection, but she's actually slowly turning back into 4 different forest animals. I know it was the 30s, but this is not understanding biology cubed.
You see this? First of them all to shed tears. She is human. I'm not beaten. Get everything ready. For what? This time I'll burn out all the animal around.
The fiancée and her new captain arrive on the island. So we get this really fucking awkward tonal shift between the honestly not bad horror with Lawton and Moreau and the misplaced comedy exploits of the rejected cast of Masters of the Universe following the fiancé and captain as they travel through the jungle to the house. While screaming to try to convince them they're alone. Anyway, they get to the house. The fiancé is reunited with Skippy, and Moreau develops a completely new fiendish plan.
I may not need Parker.
Yes, she'll mate with Panther Woman. Honestly, it wouldn't be any worse than the rest of the biology on display. If you want to see if an animal-human hybrid and a person can have a kid, then why not sail to a nearby port and pay a sailor to come and fuck her? Some of those guys have fucked panthers, and not the half-human kind. And okay, I'm losing hope there's going to be a tiny hairless monkey clone. Is there at least going to be a Pope-mobile? Please give me a Pope-mobile. A movie where Charles Laughton comes within inches of eating the scenery with the most obvious villain goatee I've ever seen cannot be more sensible than the 90s version of the same story.
Well, couldn't you send
If
someone?
you care to accept the hospitality of my house, you can leave in complete safety in the morning.
They agree to spend the night, and the new captain drinks so much I might as well take a frame and give him a literal red shirt. Just like that. We also see a room they borrowed from Alien Resurrection. I'm told it wants it back. Anyway. Who wants attempted rape? If the bars can be so easily opened, then what the fuck was the point of having them? Why didn't they try to open them before? Or did he deliberately put her in a crappily defended room just so that she could get raped and maybe become I answered my own question there, didn't I?
I heard a scream and some shots.
That's all you know, is it? You didn't want it to happen, of course. That isn't what you meant when you said that you might not need Parker.
I'm still convinced they only hired a Bela Lugosi lookalike to play this guy to convince the audience he's in the movie more than he is. I just wonder why Ed Wood didn't try to cast him in Plan 9. They could have let him use a transparent cape. Anyway, the new captain's death is so expected, they pretty much didn't even bother to have any audio over most of it.
What is the law? Not to spill blood. Are we not men? You broke the law.
I'm guessing at least some of you are expecting a joke about the irony of seeing Bela Lugosi getting pissed off at this spilling of blood. Possibly a gag about how it's a waste or something. Sorry, no. All you're getting is this. When's the worst time to get an erection? When being crowned Miss World! Moreau ordered the ape-man to kill the new captain. This revelation, coupled with them discovering that humans can be killed like anything else, makes the animals go completely apeshit. And how did you go apeshit en masse in the 30s? Well, obviously, with fucking torches! They have trouble with complete sentences and need to be reminded daily not to eat anyone, but they had no trouble making fire. I realize that torches are pretty much expected, but they might as well have had them turn into blacksmiths and create pitchforks.
What is the law?
Law no more.
What is the law?
You made us sing! Not men! Not bees! Part man! Part beast! Sing!
Have you forgotten the House of Pain?
If he was Marlon Brando, this is where he could have threatened to eat them all. When animals attack! The main cast, except for Moreau, run all the way around the base just to go back to the door right beside where they started. Moreau gets stabbed into 1,000 pieces by his scalpels because, oh, the irony of it all. The Panther Woman gets killed, saving the rest of the main cast from an ape-man, so there's no loose ends left, and they escape on a boat far too small to actually take them anywhere. So this is more sensible than the Marlon Brando version? Fuck! You know, I'd love to see a movie that crossed the island of Dr. Moreau with The Most Dangerous Game. The Most Dangerous Game of Dr. Moreau, where humans are hunted down by animal men. Or vice versa. This film has aged well. The crap elements like the melodramatic acting and the occasionally crap makeup are fairly obvious, but there are parts that are genuinely horrific. Like the rape attempt. It's just a pity that the fiancé subplot is shoehorned in only to give the protagonist a reason to not fall in love or fuck the Panther Woman. The film was only 17 minutes long, They should have just had the lead wash ashore on the island like the 70s version and used the lack of fiancé on not rushing the story. Of course, then we would have lost the attempted rape, which is genuinely shocking to see in a mainstream studio movie this old. Overall, this is good. It's certainly better than the 70s or 90s versions. If you want some high-end 1930s exploitation, check this out. I'm Diamanda Hagan, and I have to live with that every day. What the... Oh, man! I need to stop going to those parties. Too much Romulan ale.